Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video on the Civic. You guys seem to really enjoy the first video on kind of the introduction and all that good stuff, so we're hopping right back in with another video, and today we're going to be doing something that you guys should know I like to do by now, and that is installing a double DIN radio into the Civic. Now, this is not going to be as revolutionary as putting the double DIN into the 96 to 98. This one is a little bit more straightforward. It's way simpler, way easier, but there are a few little things that you do kind of need to know about, and we're definitely going to talk about those things in this video. So before we get into doing all that and showing you everything that we got, let's kind of go over the setup that was already in the car. I went ahead and already pulled everything out because this morning I went to go get the radio adapter harness, which is this, and I decided to pull everything out to see if the car already had one because it had an aftermarket radio, and it did. So that saved me a trip to the store, saved me 10 bucks. This is the radio that was in it. It's a extremely old Alpine unit. I want to say this is probably put in around 2010 or something like that. It only has FM, AM, CD, and iPod, the old school iPod connector, like old school, and it just doesn't fit my needs, and it's super outdated, super old, and I just didn't like it. So we're going to be replacing this today, and if you look at all the junk that it had connected to it, it had this interface adapter for iPod. I mean, you literally used to have something like this to even use an iPod in a aftermarket radio, which is crazy. Nowadays you just plug a USB right into the radio and it's good to go. So it had that, this piece that plugged it into the radio, and then this piece that ran to your iPod connector. That's how old this is. Look at that. Insane. But that's all junk. Not going to be using that. This is what we're going to be going with. So this is the Sony AX1000 double DIN CarPlay head unit. If you look at what's unique about this one, it is single DIN size in the back but double DIN size in the front. Now this unit was originally in my truck over there, but I'm planning on selling that truck, so I've decided to pull it out and repurpose it into the new Civic. What I like about this unit and what you guys should highly consider when you're planning on doing one of these is this volume knob right here. I promise you that makes a world of difference when driving. You just grab the knob, turn it, rather than looking at your radio and physically trying to find the little touchscreen button to turn the volume up. It sucks. Get something with a knob. This is a very affordable unit, 300 bucks. Works awesome. I've had it in my truck for a year. I love it. Would highly recommend, and honestly would probably be putting these in any future cars that I ever own. So this is the wiring harness side of things that comes out of the radio. This will plug into the back of the Sony unit, and then obviously we have to wire up all of these to our adapter. This is a Metra 70-1721 radio harness adapter, and the reason why you want to use one of these is so you don't have to cut into your factory wiring harness on the car. These are great, makes things super easy. You just match color to color from this side to the radio side and good to go. Now as far as this kind of stuff goes, this is going to be totally up to you. The best way to do it would be to solder the wires together. I think it's just too time consuming. I like to use the little red connectors. Also, I would highly recommend getting yourself some of these. These make stripping wires so much faster and easier. And then just to clean everything up, we've got like this hockey stick style grip tape just to wrap the loom together and make it all nice. So this is going to be a super easy, super straightforward install. Way better than it was on the hatch. It's not going to take me 5 hours like it did on that car, but we're going to jump straight into it. And I'm going to be wearing a GoPro kind of to give you guys a better angle on what I'm doing and making things a little bit easier to see while we're inside the car. Also, we put the Koses on. What do you guys think? But yeah, this is everything you're gonna need, and we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so clearly I've already taken everything apart and done all of that good stuff. We're gonna skip all of that in this video because there's tons of videos on how to get to this point, and it's very similar to how I did it on the hatchback. So if you guys are interested in seeing how to get to this point, go ahead and check out my video on the double DIN install of the hatchback. If not, do a quick search. Maybe I'll link some videos down in the description to show you guys how to do it on a 99 to 2000. A few small differences, like there's 4 screws down in here that I don't believe were on the hatchback, but it's pretty much the same thing. And at least on this, you don't have to take out the whole center console to do it. So quick recap, just to kind of show you guys what you need to do. First thing you'll need to do is pop out the glove box. You can do that by pushing in on the sides right here. Pop that out. Then you're gonna need to remove this side of this lower piece. You can remove the whole thing if you want, but I just didn't want to. And then there's gonna be 2 screws, 1, 2, and then 2 over here, 1, 2, and then 2 on the bottom, 1, 2. And that is gonna be for this piece, which sits up in here like this. Once you remove all the screws for that, you pop it out, unplug your cigarette lighter, toss that in the back seat. And then you'll have this kind of sitting in here like that. There's gonna be 4 screws on the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4. You pry this thing out a little bit, then you're gonna remove this connector for the hazard button, and then you're gonna remove the connectors for the climate control. There's going to be 2 on the back like this. Pop both of those out. This will be attached to the climate control, but I had to take it off so we can get to the radio install. So that would be your next step. Take this off, and then boom, you're all caught up. Super simple, tons of videos on this. I don't want to waste time. I just want to show you guys the good stuff and how to install this radio. So let's jump into it. Okay, so before we get to installing anything, step 1 is going to be wiring up everything. So I don't want you guys to overcomplicate this. It's super easy. Basically, you're gonna match up color for color from both sets of wires. This one plugs into the back of the radio. This one plugs into the car. You're gonna match up color for color and solder them together, butt connector, however you wanna do it. And just make sure all the colors are matched up from this one. If you have extra coming from your radio, then that's going to be for things like maybe extra amp power or reverse camera or stuff like that. If you have extra from the radio side, it's okay, don't worry about it. So I'm going to throw you guys on a tripod, set up a little time lapse, we'll get all this wired up, and then we'll go ahead and start installing.
We started out on a Wednesday and I couldn't figure out why you would be mad at me. You say it's nothing but it never ever changes, just like that. It's always whatever anyway, every time we try to talk, I am out of here any day. It's always something that we never ever changes, just like that. I get the shivers whenever I'm thinking about you. Just wanna leave and live without you. Be on my own again. I get the shivers whenever you go out of line, yeah. I feel it creeping down my spine, yeah. Wanna be alone again.
Just like that, the wiring harness is done. Everything is all wired up. Again, we ended up with some extra wires on the radio side. Don't worry, it's fine. But everything that we need to be plugged up is plugged up. Not my prettiest work, I will say. A little jumbled up here at the end, but I started to run out of the right connectors that I needed, so I had to use some other ones. But overall, it's good to go, and we are ready to install this radio into the car. So real quick, before we start installing, we're gonna do a test fit on the radio inside of the bezel. To do that, I need to take these brackets off of the old radio. We got one on each side, and screw them into the Sony unit, and then we'll bolt it up and see how it fits on the bezel. So this is gonna be the final setup. The radio is fully installed into the bezel. Some gaps around the edge, which really sucks. I hate that a lot. Really bothers my OCD. But having this with gaps around the edge is better than not having it at all. So if you look right here, this is our setup. We got 2 screws in right there. 2 screws in right there. Those are what hold the radio in place. And then if you look, we've got 1, 2, 1, 2. That's what bolts this whole bracket to the back of the bezel, and we're ready to install. So back in the car now, we're basically ready to go. we've got our harness all wired up, ready to plug into the back of the radio. And we've got our radio mounted to the bezel itself. And now we can go ahead and start going in reverse order of what we've already done and put everything back together. So first thing we need to do is get this piece kind of squared away. So we need to get our climate controls put back in and bolted in. Climate controls are in. We're gonna go ahead and plug this one in, and that is going to connect our recirc, AC, and I guess rear defroster back to the climate control. And then this is ready to go back in. But before we do that, we're gonna go ahead and plug this in because we probably won't be able to get to it. Here we go. We got our harness hanging down, ready to go. As we put this in, right, we've got three things back here that need to be plugged in. So we've got the bottom two for the climate control, and then we've got this for the hazard button. Go ahead and wait on this one. You'll do that one last, but we'll go ahead and set this in and then get the bottom two for the climate control plugged in. It's gonna be a little bit difficult. You're gonna have to reach up and around to get them in. There it is. Now that we've got those two plugged into the climate control, we're gonna tuck our wire back for the radio itself. Go ahead and tuck that all the way back. And then we're gonna work on getting this thing set. But before we do that, we're gonna go ahead and plug in our hazard right here. Boom. And now the only thing left that needs to be plugged in will be the radio. We go up underneath here. This is the harness from the car. This is the harness from the radio. And we'll plug it in just like that. Boom. Before we put everything back together, we're gonna go ahead and test and make sure that it is working properly. Radio comes on, and everything works as it should. So now we can just put everything back together. And that's it. That took me about two hours, 2.5 hours, mostly because I spent a lot of that time looking for the bezel piece to go around that, but nonetheless, it is all there. It works. Radio comes on. And there we have it. Everything is installed, tested, everything works very well. CarPlay, all that good stuff. I'm just super pumped about this. Everything works exactly the way that I would want it. You guys know that I love double DINs. Obviously a bigger screen would be awesome, but you're kind of limited to the size of screen you can put in the 99 to 2000 based off of this bezel right here. Obviously you can't put a big one like we did in the hatch, but this is plenty good enough for me. It has everything that I need. The volume knob is awesome. I told you guys that's something that you really need to consider. It's so much easier than dealing with pushing like on like a little touch screen to deal with volume up and volume down. But a little bit of a surprise that I got, this car actually does not have factory speakers. It's got aftermarket, and it looks like it's got Rockfords in the front and I believe Pioneers in the back, and it sounds great. Like the audio is super clear, the bass is really good. Like I don't really need to do anything as far as adding, you know, anything crazy like that. And I'm not an audio guy, so I don't really care anything about having like a sub or an amp or anything crazy like that. But maybe in the future we'll look into it, and that would make a cool video for those of you who are interested in doing it. But this was my quick down and dirty guide on how to put a double DIN into the 99 to 2000 Honda Civic. Links for everything will be in the description. I'll leave a link for the radio itself, the adapter harness, everything that you might need to do this. And I'd say all in all it would probably cost you around $300 to $350 if you did it exactly the way that I did it. Highly recommend this unit. That's a Sony AX1000, and then the adapter harness that you need, that is going to be a Metra, and the part number is 70-1721. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video on installing a double din into the car. I'm much happier now that I can listen to music. I've been driving this car for a week with no music and it sucked. But like I said, links in the description for everything that you need to do this. And hopefully you guys gain some knowledge out of this and you'll go out there and do it on your own car. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.